Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet of ours. Welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear. This is the podcast conversation about accelerating the transition to a sustainable carbon neutral society, and I'm your host, Mitch Ratcliffe. Thanks for joining the conversation today. We're going to talk about reuse in a really interesting form. Americans returned $890 billion worth of merchandise last year, nearly 17% of all retail sales. But here's what most shoppers don't see. 2.6 million tons of those returns end up in landfills because it's cheaper to throw them away than to process and resell them. The reverse logistics involved in returning products generated 16 million tons of CO2 emissions in 2020, equivalent to powering 2 million homes for an entire year. So every returned item cost a retailer between $25 and $35 to handle. And with the rise of keep it returns policies, fraud has exploded. 52% of consumers admit to participating in return fraud at least once. Our guest today, Disney Petit, CEO and founder of Liquid Donate, witnessed this crisis firsthand. As employee number 15 at Postmates, she built the customer service team, launched major markets, and created Civic Labs, the company's social responsibility arm. Her food security product, Bento, which allowed people without smartphones to access free food by a text message, won Time Magazine's Invention of the Year award. And now her new company, Liquid Donate, has been named one of Time's best inventions of 2025. Liquid Donate tackles the returns crisis with simple logic. Instead of shipping unwanted items back to warehouses or dumping them in landfills, those products are redirected to nonprofits and schools that need them. The platform integrates with retailers' existing warehouse and return management systems, automating the matching process and handling tax documentation so that the company, the retailer, can write off the donations. Retailers also recover logistics costs through the tax benefits, and communities receive quality products, and millions of pounds of goods stay out of landfills. Disney approaches the business through the lens of environmental justice and human rights, and she's building a for-profit company designed to prove that doing good and doing well aren't mutually exclusive. They are interdependent. So we're going to talk with Disney about why donation is more cost-effective than destruction, how her early business experience informs her approach to excess inventory, and what it takes to convince an industry to rethink what happens to unwanted goods. You can learn more about Liquid Donate at liquiddonate.com. So let's explore how one woman's journey is turning retail's trash into community's treasure right after this quick commercial break. Welcome to the show, Disney. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
It's early for both of us, but I think we're going to have a great conversation. I wanted to start off. Can you walk us through how the Liquid Donate process works? We
Yeah,
think about returns all the time, but we don't think about what happens once it leaves our door.
you're absolutely right. So with Liquid Donate, it's actually really simple. We plug right into the retailer's existing warehouse or return system. So when a product comes back and can't be resold, say it's like open box or slightly
Mhm.
damaged, our platform will automatically find a local nonprofit or school that can use it. Then once the match is made, we handle everything, the label, the shipping or the pickup, and even the donation receipt for tax purposes. So it's the same reverse logistics workflow that they already use. It's just
Mhm.
redirected toward community good instead of going to the landfill.
To date, how much material have you diverted from landfill?
So far, retailers using Liquid Donate have donated over 12 million items that otherwise would have ended up in the landfill. We have over 4,000 different nonprofits in the network. To give you some examples, we've worked with retailers like Room and Board, helping them to divert their waste from the landfill and into the homes and offices of the people who need it. They also include us in their annual sustainability report as one of the ways that they're working to meet their company goal of 90% of landfill diversion by 2030.
How do you earn revenue then?
Well, we earn revenue because we are a SaaS logistics platform. So
Mhm.
we call ourselves retail technology. And we really just work to plug into the back end of this process that already exists with retailers. We can charge retailers either a pay as you go model because we know that it's something that is new for retailers to try to donate instead of dump. But we also have the ability to do a SaaS software subscription that makes more sense for them once the
Mhm.
volume is there.
So is it really kind of a matter of setting them up, proving it so that they then convert to a subscription?
It really depends on the retailer. So we have some retailers that know that this is the solution because they were referred by another retailer. But for some retailers, they want to try it out and see how it goes before they take the plunge.
I'm curious about the nonprofits and schools and what they get. Can you share a
Yeah.
story maybe about a particularly meaningful community impact that you think exemplifies what you do?
Yeah, so a great example of that is our partnership with Thuma. So they're a furniture brand known for their minimalist platform beds. So like many direct-to-consumer companies, they had returned items that couldn't be resold. These perfectly good pieces that would have ended up in storage or worse in the landfill. And so through Liquid Donate, we were able to redirect these to local nonprofits that were furnishing homes for people transitioning out of homelessness. Within days of the product being listed on the platform, the bed frames were set up in new apartments, places that had been empty before. Through Liquidonate, we are able to make sure that these otherwise unfurnished places potentially have access to products that's going to make it feel more like a home.
Well, that's a great story. You mentioned that you integrate with warehouse systems and return management systems. We don't think about this, but when you send something back, it emits as much carbon as the delivery, maybe a little
Right.
less because you don't jump the Pacific. But wh does your system, because it directs it to more local uses, reduce the CO2 impact of the return overall?
Absolutely. I mean, originally we were positioning ourselves as a climate tech company because that's what we're all really passionate about here at the company. But as you mentioned, traditional logistics are messy. Someone at a warehouse will have to call around to find a charity, figure out the transport, fill out the paperwork. It's slow and manual, and that's only if they have the desire to do that. So, because we're automating all of that process, our system knows the product type, the location, and which nonprofit nearby can do it. So instead of adding friction, we're using the data that real retailers already have in order to help remove that friction and make sure that we're transiting the product the least amount of distance possible. So to give you an example, if you are a customer and you go online to return something, right now you typically expect for it to be resold. But what consumers might not know is that 8 out of 10 times, these products are actually ending up in the landfill after they've traveled hundreds or thousands of miles to go to the destination, the warehouse, where someone is going to then be paid to handle the product, sort it, and then ultimately disposition it. With Liquidoni, we're able to instead intercept that process and decide at the point of return that customer's home instantly if the retailer doesn't plan to resell that product. What if we could just produce a shipping label for a
Mhm.
nonprofit within 30 to 50 miles of that customer's home instead of hundreds or thousands of miles away? So that's what our software does. And it really helps to lower the carbon emissions of a return as well as reduce the cost for the retailer.
How do you vet the nonprofits in particular, but the schools as well, and keep that database up to date in order to generate those labels?
Yeah, so that's kind of our secret sauce is the ability to build a huge nonprofit network so that we're able to provide those matching logistics. One of the things that's really interesting about our team is that a majority of us actually come from a nonprofit background. And so we kind of all fell into tech and realized how cool like technology could be if we were doing it for the right reasons. And so this was our way to really implement that is merging the nonprofit world and the tech world together so that we could maximize the impact. It's just our specialty.
So what does a retailer's ROI look like over the course of the first year? I mean, obviously, these were losses before. How do how do
Right.
you how do you quantify the benefit to them?
So retailers see up to 60% reduction in their reverse logistics costs within their first year of using Liquid Donate, and we cut their transit distances by up to 90%. They also get tax deductions, ESG reporting data, and sustainability wins that they can share with their customers.
Now and thank you for it, by the way. You contributed an article to Earth and One a few months back, and you talked about the average cost to return an
Yeah.
item, which is between 25 and $35. How much does on a per unit basis does a retailer save by going to that more local option?
Yeah, it's shocking, right? Like, I don't think any of us would expect for returns to cost the retailer money, but it is the tried and true method. So it varies by product category, but typically we
Mhm.
see a savings between $2 and $10 per item in direct shipping and handling alone. When you layer in the avoided landfilling fees, as well as the reduced storage costs and the tax deduction, that total impact per item can easily climb to $20 or more. And beyond the numbers, the brand benefit is huge. The customers notice when a company chooses to donate instead of destroy the product, and that can be priceless for the marketing campaign within that brand.
Do you see brand reputation lift with the customers you've worked with so far?
Just anecdotally so far, but we're working to make that more empirically based.
Are there things you won't handle?
There are things that we won't handle. It's mostly prepared food from restaurants. That was my previous life.
Hmm.
So prior to founding Liquid Donate, I was the 15th employee at Postmates, where I spent about a decade building out last mile delivery logistics. And one of the products I built while I was there was called Food Fight. And Food Fight matched all the excess food from the restaurants we worked with shelters in 700 cities around the US. And so once we were acquired by Uber, I decided that, hey, like food recovery and food waste is in the hands of folks who are doing really great work. The scene had increased significantly over the years that I was working at Postmates and specifically on the food waste issue. And so I decided that the retail space was really the next big endeavor here. But so food waste, we don't do, we cover everything else on the retail side.
What did you learn from the Postmates experience? I mean, obviously, you pioneered this environment we live in where we have on-demand services and products being delivered to our homes. Now you're thinking about taking stuff back. What were the insights to enable Liquid Donate's obvious success and recognition?
Yeah, there are a number of things that I learned from building at Postmates. So specifically around Food Fight, the thing that I was most surprised about when we started building it is that there is no real national database of nonprofits that you can download and put into some kind of system. So we had to manually build out the nonprofit network there. And the insights we gained from building that was really critical in how we were able to do the same thing for Liquid Donate when it came time to build that for the retail network as well. There are a million things that we learned from doing this at Postmates in order to help inform what we're building here at Liquid Donate. I could go on. There's so many, but
When you think about flipping the equation from delivery to return, what were the key insights there?
it's actually quite the same beast, actually. So, like, we were doing hyper local delivery with Postmates. We were taking something that you might order online and find it in your local community and have it delivered by a local courier. So, we were really focused on that hyper local community aspect. And this is very similar. We're keeping the product in the community versus having to ship it out.
Does that drive additional employment in the local community? That seems one of the virtues of a circular economy.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We haven't done research there that would make me feel very confident about
Mhm.
saying that for sure. But I mean, the circular economy has so many benefits to everybody who's a part of it. So we definitely believe that that is something that will be moving the needle on as we continue to grow.
This is a great place to take a quick commercial break. I want to continue the conversation with about Liquid Donate with Disney Petit in just a moment. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back to Sustainability in Your Ear. Let's return to the discussion with Disney Petit. She is CEO of Liquid Donate, which makes a software platform that integrates with retailers' existing systems to automatically match unsellable returns and excess inventory with nonprofits and schools, as well as handling the tax documentation and managing the reverse logistics, getting those packages to the right places. Disney, one of the things that's interesting to me is, you've got all this material, but how do you get it to the right nonprofit? How do they tell you what they need?
Yeah, so we've built a proprietary matching algorithm that's able to determine the right nonprofit at the right time. One of the most interesting things about working with nonprofits over my career has been the ability to see how they really need specific products at specific times, but they don't really have a seamless way of getting those unless they put a full-time employee on it. And so when we were building Liquid Donate, we knew that we needed to build something that would enable a nonprofit to go to our website, simply sign up for free, tell us the types of items that they'd like to be notified about, as well as the availability of things like loading docks in case it was a pallet. And they let
Mhm.
us know if they want to receive those products automatically or if they would like to receive those products only when they opt into them. So that is really what we spent time building on the nonprofit side for these folks to be able to just sign in, sign up, simply receive the items that are the right fit for them, and not receive things they don't want. I think one of the experiences that I had in my previous work when I was doing disaster relief is I was needing 40 bottles of bleach for fire relief victims. And so that day we put the call out on social media, we need 40 bottles of bleach. We got the 40 bottles of bleach that day, but then the next day we also received 40 bottles,
40
and the
more.
day after we got 40 more. And so now, instead of actually doing the work required to help the people who were the victims of a wildfire, I was now in charge of finding a home for 80 gallons of bleach, finding a storage unit or making
Mhm.
sure that we could find somewhere else to take it. It really takes time away from the nonprofit when people were just intending to do good. So the matching of the actual product need at the right time is really critical to make sure that we're not adding additional burden to the already overburdened nonprofits.
You, I guess the best way to put it is have a habit of winning Time Magazine Best Innovation and Invention Awards. You did it for the second time with Liquid Donate. What do you think was the specific innovation that set you apart? I'm curious as to your reflection on their acknowledgement of your success.
So with the Time Magazine Invention of the Year award, I've been lucky enough to build two products that have won that. And I believe that the main reason behind why we continue to get this type of recognition is because we're really building innovation in a space that has not received a lot of innovation that makes a lot of sense for the recipients. So in the world that I work in, the nonprofits typically don't have access to technology that is actually going to benefit their bottom line. Nonprofits are typically doing their best to keep their heads above water in doing the work that they need to do on a day to day basis. So implementing something new, like a new payment system or a new CRM, things that a lot of startups and companies take for granted that these are things that we have to learn and do. The nonprofits don't necessarily have the time, energy, or folks who are able to actually learn these systems. So it's really important that we continue to increase the convenience of technology within the nonprofit world while not burdening them with things that are not need to know mission critical. So how do we actually implement these products and merge this world of tech and nonprofit in a way that actually works for the nonprofits versus just trying to put technology ethos on top of a nonprofit that might not like that they have different problems than a
Yeah.
tech company, than a software company. So we need to acknowledge that, and I think that's really what I've been able to do because of my experience working in both a technology company like Postmates that had a successful exit and in the nonprofit space where we experienced being under resourced at a significant level.
It's interesting that the philanthropic donations could even be a burden for these organizations. If you were to give a philanthropist advice about how to be of service to the organizations that they want to help, what would it be?
So for philanthropists who are looking to do the right thing by nonprofits, there are a few things that I would recommend that are not really the status quo today. But the number
Mhm.
one option is to provide unrestricted grants to nonprofits. Right now, nonprofits often receive a restricted grant. This donation is required to be used for programmatic work to save X amount of children, animals, whatever the issue area might be.
Yeah.
And while that is noble, these nonprofit executive directors, founders, employees, they know what needs to get done in order to meet their mission. The reason they're running this nonprofit is because it is something that they're passionate about. And so being able to give them the power to decide how that money is spent is something that is not really able to be said by the nonprofit side, but it is something that is extremely helpful for them. They know that they can attract top talent if they're able to pay a little bit more money, even though that's going toward overhead versus programmatic work. But you need the right people in the right places to solve these hard problems. So
Yeah.
I think that that is the number one thing that I would say to a philanthropist is instead of restricting where the money can be spent, be a little bit more open-minded to where that executive director is planning to spend that money themselves.
That's interesting. It's analogous to the situation with a VC, a venture capitalist, where you invest in the team and then you let them use the money the way that they believe they need to because you trust them. And that same approach with nonprofits might unleash a lot more creativity if we were to go there. Really interesting. Your previous Time Magazine award was for Bento, and that was a text-based food delivery program for food security for people who are experiencing homelessness and food scarcity. How does that experience of designing for accessibility and equity inform the way that you built Liquid Donate's platform?
It informed it tremendously. Being able to see what needed to happen in order to make a product for someone who was actually experiencing hunger and talking to the folks who were using the product makes it so obvious that when you're building your next product or your next whatever, that you really need to make sure you're talking to the people who are using the product. I know that that's the number one point of product management. It's the first thing you learn is that you have to talk to users, but I think there is a big hesitation to do that. But with Bento, we had to talk to people about what are the circumstances in which they need to access food that they
Mhm.
feel comfortable doing, and how will they actually physically do the work, like to access it. Do they
Mhm.
have they we realize, oh, okay, they don't have, not necessarily, like, these folks don't necessarily have smartphones. Okay, how do we take something that's an app-based accessibility and think about it in a whole different way? And then it's like, okay, well, they have phones that can do SMS. So is there a way we can use SMS to connect to the system to place the order in a similar fashion?
Mhm.
Because before, the answer was, oh, if someone needs some type of philanthropy work, give them a promo code for a free delivery. But if you don't have a phone that has the ability to download mobile apps,
Yep.
then that's a non-starter. And so we actually have to go further into the process to determine that. And so with Liquid Donate, we went and actually started by working alongside folks in the warehouses that were dispositioning these products, seeing how the process actually worked, so that we could build the software that worked specifically for this use case on the retail side, and that was mission critical in getting our first donations out the door.
It's interesting. So you're describing the application of the customer journey analysis and workflow development inside different organizations in order to activate nonprofit activity in a way that we really haven't seen before because we weren't mature enough as an economy, probably. What other kinds of materials and services could we be directing to people in need?
I think the possibilities are endless. It's extremely difficult to build a product that is based in technology and software for a population that typically is not involved in the technology and software industry. And so you really have to find a group of founders who are particularly invested in building what that community needs, but the possibilities are truly endless. So Bento, the company that is doing that food security work that I helped to found back in 2021 when we won the Time Magazine Invention of the Year award for it, is still going today, and it's going strong. They've been able to expand outside of California. They're continuing to grow as well. So that is something that having a dedicated team to continue to build and grow that is something that is so important. I think that there are lots of other folks doing really interesting work. One of my friends is building a platform that enables text to 911. So for people who are
Mhm.
deaf or hard of hearing, and then eventually to even expand it into people who are experiencing domestic violence and might not have the ability to call 911 because of a domestic violence situation that they're in.
Mhm.
Being able to text and notify, like, that's an incredible an incredible invention in the world that we live in today. So I think that there's a lot of different places where where technology is applicable. It's just a matter of finding the right founder who has the interest in building that thing in the right domain expertise to make sure that we're building it alongside the people who really benefit from it.
Now, returning your Earth 911 article that you shared with us a few months ago, you explained that 52% of consumers have admitted that they have participated in return fraud. How does Liquid Donate help retailers address or even just identify return fraud?
Yeah, so returns fraud is something that I don't think a lot of consumers think about unless they are attempting to commit it. So, returns fraud for the general public is when a customer goes online to return a product that they actually intend to keep. They're hoping to receive a refund for the product and have the system tell them to keep the goods. That is what we call a keep it return. And that
Mhm.
is an extremely common thing that folks do. And it's because companies like Amazon have really set the standard for these keep it returns. These keep it returns are really bad for the environment because a majority of the time, the folks actually didn't want the product and they were expecting it to be able to be disposed of by the original retailer they purchased it from in an appropriate way. In the cases where the return attempt is fraudulent, they want to keep the item and continue using it. So that's
Mhm.
actually less bad for the environment because the folks who were told to keep it, who actually wanted to get rid of it, now have the onus on them to determine what to do with it. And so they typically throw it in the trash. And
Yeah.
so now all of these usable products are ending up in the trash. So that's not the best outcome for the environment, for the retailer, for the person. And so what Liquid Donate does is that 100% of the time we're producing a shipping label for a nonprofit who wants that product. And so we completely eliminate that keep it return option so that we eliminate the returns fraud option for the consumers who are looking to defraud the retailer. And every time that someone goes to return something that they do not want in good faith, we are sending it to somebody who actually can use it. So 100% of the time, we're eliminating that opportunity for fraud and providing a better and more environmentally friendly outcome for the goods.
It sounds like there's an opportunity to collaborate with the major e-commerce platforms to really ramp this up. If we were to do so, how much more returned and excess inventory, just in terms of economic value, perhaps, not necessarily all the weight that I described in our intro, is
Yeah.
out there waiting to be brought into the reuse economy, do you think?
It's $900 billion worth of inventory that ends up in the landfill every year. We're really just touching a portion of that today. And so the opportunity out there is tremendous to reroute that usable product to people who need it.
Do you imagine yourself collaborating with an Amazon or a Walmart or others like that do
Yeah.
you think they're interested and willing to do so at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. We love working with large retailers because that's where we see a big opportunity in terms of volume and making sure that these products have an extension of life instead of a terrible end of life. We um we don't work to shame the retailers for what is
Mhm.
happening today. We work to invite them in to say, "Hey, like we know this is the problem that's happening today. This is how we can help you solve it." And not only is Liquid Donate good for the environment, but it also saves you money as the retailer. So we really make it a win-win and a no-brainer for these retailers, big and small, to make the choice to use Liquid Donate instead of the existing platform that they're using today.
I wonder, do you dream of using that empty van space in all those Amazon vans returning to the distribution center to collect material in the future?
I think that is a dream. We'll see what happens, but I think there's a lot of different ways that the future could unfold, and we're just hoping to have the most environmentally friendly ones
Mhm.
as what transpires for us.
If a listener is a nonprofit or at a school, how would they contact you to get on your list? And how can our listeners just track what Liquid Donate is doing?
Yeah, so it's super simple for nonprofits to sign up. They just go to liquiddonate.com. So instead of thinking of the word liquidate, we have made a play on that. And instead of liquidate, we want you to liquid donate your excess inventory. So they just go to liquiddonate.com, they click on the nonprofit tab, and it'll walk them through the registration. It'll take them less than 10 minutes to sign up for access to all of the products that are on the platform from all of the different retailers that we work with today. And for anyone who is associated with a retailer who has physical goods, we would also love to talk to them. They can email us at partners@liquiddonate.com, and people can find us on social media at Liquidonate on all of the places that you would typically find us.
Well, Disney, this is really interesting. I hope it continues to grow as quickly as it has already. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to Sustainability in Your Ear. You've been listening to a conversation with Disney Petit. She's founder and CEO of Liquid Donate, a company redirecting e-commerce returns from landfills to nearby community nonprofits and schools, which also provides a substantial savings to retailers. You can learn more about Liquid Donate as well as sign up an organization to receive returns at liquiddonate.com. Liquid Donate is all one word, no space, no dash. Liquiddonate.com. Disney's innovation is an example of the many new roles for companies and individual workers that can emerge in a circular economy. When products, packaging, and other post-use materials can be returned, new reverse logistics businesses can step into a variety of markets and material streams to keep those materials in use, and that can reduce the cost of feedstocks for the next generation of products in the long run, while paying immediate environmental dividends by reducing the need to extract raw materials from nature for today's products. We have a few models available to learn from today, from re-commerce programs that resell everything from clothes to ashtrays and automobiles, so think of ThreadUp or eBay, to new recycling services for textiles like Retold Recycling or SuperCircle. Those companies have focused on a single aspect of circularity in many cases in order to create sufficient materials and transaction volume to generate revenue. Liquidonate, on the other hand, tapped into a well-established business model, the SaaS business model, selling an enterprise platform that produces savings for its customers by transforming the previously intractable returns problem into a business savings that simultaneously results in reduced return fraud. It's a straightforward offering that delivers savings to the bottom line immediately. Now, how many other reverse logistics, recycling, and reuse opportunities are in this world? Well, as many as there are industries and geographic markets. Some problems can be solved at the national level, as Disney has done by creating a database to direct returns to organizations that need them. But solutions for many materials, including the types of products that Liquid Donate cannot accept, such as big and bulky items or foreign imports or underwear and swimsuits, may need to grow from the grassroots up. The challenge is always to gather enough of a particular circular item to make processing it economically viable. There are literally millions of these opportunities to put the circular into our economy, and to do so at a profit. For all the knocks that AI deserves due to its electricity and manufacturing related carbon and water footprints, its ability to process massive volumes of unstructured data can help to organize these new circular materials flows into viable markets. It's a story that is only getting underway, and you can stay tuned to Sustainability in Your Ear to track circular economy progress. And I hope you also take a moment to share one of the more than 500 shows in our archive with someone who wants to reduce their environmental impact. Writing a review on your favorite podcast platform will help your neighbors find us. Folks, you're the amplifiers that can spread more ideas to create less waste. So please tell your friends, family, and coworkers that they can find Sustainability in Your Ear on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, or whatever purveyor of podcast goodness that they prefer. Thank you for your support. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. This is Sustainability in Your Ear, and we will be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.